Hey there guys, this was Nature88 here and I'm back in with another episode of Fisherman Planet.
Hey guys!
So obviously, hopefully you're all doing well. Now, I thought I'd do something a little bit different instead of doing my normal series of the missions or tutorials of how to catch certain fish. I thought I'd actually go back to the basics for quite a few new players, because I know there's a couple of people out there who are having problems playing Fisherman Planet, or at least knowing the controls of what you can do or how you can do them. So obviously I've come to Lone Star Lake. Obviously you've got your tutorial done and you've come back in. Now it's got you to do all the normal stuff. So I'm going to go over a few of the basics for what you can do when you're here. So obviously you usually set on random room. Now this is for all the gen consoles, even the PC, what you can do. Now obviously, when you come here, you basically have a basic license. Obviously, you need enough bait coin to get an advanced license. Now, the advanced license means you can keep all the fish. There's no restrictions. This is for every location. There might be a few places which says you've got to release, regardless with the advanced license, you've got to release certain fish. So please do release them, because if not, the warning down here, the violation warning, and the fee will come into effect. So if you keep a fish which you are supposed to release, you will be fined. It does warn you beforehand, so guys, keep that in mind. Now obviously, as it says here, there's no restrictions anyway for this location, so you can take whichever fish. Obviously if it was these, you'd have to release them. Now with mostly all the basic licenses, you cannot fish at night, so you cannot catch any fish at night. But if you have the advanced license, you can fish at night. So again guys, if you're going to go to a location, try and go for the advanced license, even if it's the bait coin, which is unlimited, or the cash one, which is actually for a full 24 hours in real life, not the game. So I know a few people buy a license and go, oh, I've only got the 1 day for that location. No guys, you have 24 hours for that license for that location. It's obviously, if you use the bait coin, it's unlimited. So that's a few differences. Right, so obviously if you wanted to go to a certain location but you don't know what fish are there, now obviously this is before you travel to location, and when you are at the location, you can check to see what fish there are, and obviously you can see what baits they prefer to eat or have, so preferred lures, preferred baits. Obviously not all the cases, all the preferred baits for that fish is on there. You may catch something on a bait which you're like, well, it doesn't say it's a preferred bait for it. They will bite that bait. So they can bite on other things. It's like smallmouth buffalo will bite on bread with honey. No fish that I've seen on the game says bread or the bread with honey. So they will bite on numerous baits. Sometimes they may bite more on one bait than another. Other times they might not. So it can be to do with either hooks, line length, or maybe specific time periods of the day. Now the thing you're going to need to take note of, guys, is obviously the weather forecast, which I'm going to show you now. Now obviously during these periods, whether it's the day or the night cycle, it tells you exactly when there's a peak. These peaks here, guys, which is the hands over, they are your most peak times for that day of that location, like the night time. The peaks are supposed to be when your fish are going to be biting the most, and also when you have a more high chance of getting a trophy or unique fish. It's not always the case. Sometimes you might be lucky and get them in a low peak period. Other times you're going to be mostly getting them in the higher peak periods. And obviously you get a bit of information for each of the days. Now there's about 3 days, well, 3 different types of days you'll get for a location. So obviously number 1 and number 3 are exactly the same. Number 2 and number 4 are the same. And I'm pretty sure there is another one. But sometimes you'll get 3 different types of periods. Obviously the night periods will change as well at times as well. And again, like I said, certain fish may bite on certain temperature or weather conditions. This is more for the monster fish, but other times it can affect certain fish at certain locations. So, like I say, just be careful when it comes to these. You might need to know about them. Now, obviously, when it comes to the monster fish, I have said during them videos if there are certain conditions and weather conditions for you to be able to get certain fish. We'll take for Lone Star Lake the mad-eye buffalo. That will bite between a certain period and it's in a set location. It will only bite between, I think it's 10 till 12 a.m. till then it would only bite from, I think it's 4 till 6 or 6 till 8 p.m. time. Don't quote me on the second time period because I can't really remember off by heart. I remember the first time period, that's it. And again, the location, you'd be standing over here, which I'll go to, and you'd be fishing around here. It's about 60, maybe 80 feet out. But again, guys, you don't need to worry about that till you're a bit high level and you have a keep net to keep that fish. Right, so obviously you've come to Lone Star for the first time. Now, the game doesn't tell you this, but every time you come to Lone Star, you can get some free red worms. Yes, guys, you can get some free red worms, which is just at this location here. So you come here and you'd hit, obviously, E on PC. I think it's triangle on PlayStation, and I think it's Y on the Xbox. Don't quote me on the Xbox controllers because I can't remember which place they are in at. So, and obviously, I'm on a public or random server. But obviously, you're having a bit of trouble playing the game, and you just want to either play with your friends or you just want to play alone because obviously, again, people coming into you and being in your way, they're fishing your spot, or they're showing fish at you, and you're like, it's a bit too much. So you can come to here, rooms. You can either have it with friends or you can have it as a private. So we'll just go to a private, and obviously, it will now load you in to your own private room. And obviously there's no one around, and unfortunately I forgot to take that mission off, so I'll just untrack that quickly. So you don't see the little information of what you're tracking over here. Now obviously when you're on the game, you'll see at the top here, the time that you're on, the day that you're on, the weather condition, and the temperature. Obviously there is a wind condition which will also affect the distance your lures and baits and even your spinners will cast to. Obviously this here is how much fish you have in your net, and this is how much fish your net can take. Now you can get it a little bit over, and it will highlight orange, and then it will tell you you can't keep any more fish in your keep net. Now obviously, just in case you haven't remembered what size your keep net is, it does say here how much one single fish, yes guys, one single fish maximum weight can be. So I can take a 22-pound maximum weight of one single fish for my keep net. So, guys, please do keep that in mind. If you decide to go for a monster and your net can only take a maximum of 6 pounds, but the fish is 10 pound or more, unfortunately, it will say you've got to throw it back because that fish is more than what your single keep net can take. So, and that would also go for the stringers as well. So again, be careful when you're going fishing. Check to see if you can keep that fish. Now, some people be like, well, I don't know how to check. So, we're going to go to our options menu. And you're going to either use your controller to come over here, or if you're on PC, you can come over to here. And you come over to the fish. And then obviously you come down to the location, and we'll take, well, see which one, Lone Star. We'll see what the maximum weight of a fish is. So, as you can see, it's mad-eye buffalo. That's the monster fish. Well, you didn't want to know about that one. So obviously you're going to come to, sorry, I might be going a bit too fast. So you can come over to fish, and we'll say white smallmouth buffalo. So you know now the maximum weight of a single fish, or the highest that has been caught on the game so far, or at all, is 3.3 pounds. Now obviously if there was young, common, trophy, or unique, you could check, but obviously Lone Star is just one size basically. So, that's a way of checking. Now, if you wanted to say, we'll go somewhere that's a bit more higher, let's say, where's St. Croix? St. Croix Lake. Now, obviously there's no mad-eye buffalo, but you wanted to see, well, say the Northern Pike, because they are the most money maker at St. Croix and most of the matches. Now, obviously, as you can see, unique fish, the highest one, is 44 pounds. Yes, that is a big fish. Well, you didn't want to see what the biggest fish out of unique is, because you don't think you can keep that fish because you might not have the right hook size or the lure. Now there's still a chance you can get a big size unique, which goes from, I think it's 22 pounds or 22.5 pounds, and then it's classed as unique northern pike. So you want to see what the highest trophy is. So that is the highest trophy. So you can tell that after that weight there, it is going to be classed as a unique pike. Yeah. So there's a few ways of knowing what's the size and what is the highest limit before it goes to the next step in that location. Obviously, saying that you're gonna hopefully not catch that, just be prepared to catch the higher one. So we'll put that back all to normal. Right, so now you're done fishing at your location. Actually, hold on, I've skipped a step here. Right, so you're at here, you've now fished quite a bit, and you've got your advanced license and you want to fish at night. Right, all you're going to do is hit T. I can't remember what it is on consoles. I think it's square. Somebody can quote me wrong on the comment section, please do. I think it's square. Now you wanted to skip, say you wanted to go to night time. And that is what you do. You literally just hit the time button and you skip forward. Now, if you were skipping on the day, you'd have a cooldown period. Now, because obviously I'm skipping at night time, as you can see here, there's no cooldown period from 9 PM until 5 AM. Now, if I skip to the morning, that is actually classed me as needing to cool down, because obviously I only skipped to the morning part, which is a bit annoying. But if I skip to the next night time, I don't have a cooldown period, which I'll prove here right now. Obviously, I don't have to pay anything because it's free for me. Lone Star is free for everyone, so I can keep on skipping. And obviously, I've done a video about making some free bait coin early stages. Just to watch that. Just if you want to know about how to skip a bit more, or what happens when you get to day 5 or day 30, please watch some videos. Now, obviously, like I said, if I skip to the morning, so I'm going to hit next morning anyway. You think, and then you've done a bit of fishing, say you've done it for 10 minutes, and you're like, oh, I want to skip forward because obviously I didn't hit the right time period. And usually there is a cooldown period. Sometimes you'll get a cooldown period here. I think it's because we're on Lone Star, it doesn't really do it. But you'll usually get down a cooldown period, which will bring up a different screen, and it says you have to pay bait coin. What you could do is either leave, or you can actually just wait till the time period is over. You can either just close your game down, then load it back up till the time period's done, or you could just try and fish through that period. It is a bit annoying when it gives you the cooldown. Okay, Lone Star's not a great idea because obviously it doesn't give you a cooldown period. Dang it. But usually it'll give you a cooldown period here, and it'll say how long it'll be. Obviously it'll change the screen to that saying, unfortunately, because you've skipped, you've got this much time as a normal player. A premium player would have this, which would count down till it's done. Sadly, I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't pay bait coin to skip it. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I'll either close the game down and then I'll load it back up and then continue on, or I'll just try and fish as much as I can until I'm there. But this is the basics of how you can skip time. So you literally can select, obviously on consoles, you basically just skip on that part. I can't remember what the button is. I think maybe L1 and R1, or it's left or right on the directional pad, and it will literally just go through and you'll see this highlighted bit is the time that you're selecting. Now, saying that, when you skip a day, or if you're fishing through the day, it is going to affect the durability of your waistcoat when you get it, your rod stands, the fishing keep net, the tackle box, and your rod stand. Your rod case. These things get affected in your durability for each day that you skip. So if you're going to do something like Lone Star or Lesnar Villa, which obviously in that video I have gone on about and went on about making some free bait coin, unequipped, if you're not going to fish, This is if you're not going to fish it. Unequipped, your waistcoat, your rod stand, your keep net, your tackle box, and your rod stand. I mean rod case. Why am I saying stand twice for? Your rod case. And if it needs to be your boats or kayaks, or if you have DLC normal gear, unequipped it, go to the location, and then skip till you get to day 30. If you've got a ton of money and you're going for a place like St. Croix or Sandbags or Maku Lake, obviously I've not got access to that, and you want to get to day 30, you can see how much it's going to cost you, which I'll show you in a moment when we go back to the main lobby. And you could skip all the way to day 30 and not drain your gear, your clothing and that lot. It's one way of making sure you're not having to repair this lot. Now obviously your rods and your reels you will have to repair if you use them. They only go down in durability when you use them. Now obviously before I go back, I'm going to go over a bit about your rods. Now obviously this here, because it's got itself set up, is the float rod. Now I know a lot of people will get the notification to change it from it being in your hand to your float being out. This, obviously on, as some of you notice, this casts pretty close, not far out, and you can't do anything about it. And it's pretty much an easy way of getting in. Now if you change it out, now you can do it with your match rods. It's obviously F11 on PC. I think it's might be triangle. I can't remember what the button is on PlayStation, on consoles now. I think it's, no, I do know it's R3 that's on the consoles, which would obviously activate your flashlight when you get one. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys. Yeah, I can. So on PC, when you do get your free flashlight, which I have spoken about, you basically fish for fish at night. I think it's about 100 fish you have to get at night time, and you'll get the free hat. Obviously, again, PC is F, and for console players it is R3, which is obviously what would affect on console players. Unfortunately, it'd make you do that every time you do it. Yeah, it's annoying. But as I said, this is an easier way to fish and get a bit more distance. So obviously on consoles, it's, I think it's L, no, is it R2 or L2? It's one of the two. It's one of them two. You can actually aim with your rod. Now this is all the rods, even the spinners. I'm not sure about the spud rods, but anyway, you can aim exactly how far out you're going to go, and you'll see this little indicator here. Now this indicator is where you have to get your power level, which will go up into, which I'll now show you. So as you can see, it is now powering up. So this has to get into this area for you to cast. If you're a bit higher, it will cast it literally down in front of your feet. Cast too low, again, it's going to cast right in front of your feet. I'll give you an example. That didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Have they changed it on PC? Let's go a bit further out. It casts a bit shorter than what it should have done. Usually when you cast, it'll literally just fumble and go to the ground. So we'll get it bang on. But that's cast a bit, well, it has cast a bit further than what it did before. Now, if you don't want to aim, or you can just get yourself set up and go, yeah, I want to aim, say, we're going to aim over in that direction. You can just do the power, and then it won't make any difference. It'll go to the distance, the amount of power to indicate for, normally. Now, obviously, on match rods and your feeders, you can actually clip your line. Now, unfortunately, I can't do it with the standard float rod, because if I try clipping it, unfortunately, it won't let me. But your normal standard match rods, feeders, bottom feeders, I'm pretty sure you can do it on your carp rods. You can clip your lines. Now, spinners and casters, casting reels, casting rods, I should say, you can't clip them. So just be careful. If you want to clip your lines, they're the two you can't actually clip. Well, 3 technically. Float rods you can't, but you can the match rods, which is a bit weird. So yeah. Now, obviously, on consoles and PCs, you can actually add a bit of line length to your line as you are. Obviously, PC it's P and O when it wants to start working for me now, which it doesn't. There we go. And obviously, each rod or your line will be a bit different. As you can see, it is going up and down. It takes a bit of time. But I can't remember what it is on consoles. I can't remember what it is to change the distance on it. But what you can do is you can always come up here and change it manually as well. Unfortunately, I know with consoles it's a bit more difficult to get to this thing because it'll usually have you here and trying to get onto here is a bit of a tricky thing. But you can always change it on here on your lead length. Now, obviously, I have it on inches or meters, which is on the imperial system. I can change it to metric, but unfortunately, I'm on the imperial. Now, just in case, I'll go over this little stage here. Now, as you may have noticed, for me, I have it that I've got a 3 indicator instead of the single one, which I'll show you what I mean by that. There's the single indicator. Now, it's supposed to be line, rod, and reel. Now, if I got a fish, I will not know which one is being affected the most. I just can't tell. So if you're a bit like me and a few other people, you can always change it by going to the options at the end here and changing it to Pro. So then when you do get a fish, you'll tell what area has been affected, if it's your line, your rod, or your reel. Now, another thing, as you can see, you have a it's to do with your reel, it's your drag, where we can either drag up, which is now fully locked, or you can drag down, which is fully loose. Now, I know when a few people first start, they're like their line's breaking every few seconds. Now, the reason why that might be is because obviously some people are fishing over in that corner over there, or they might be over in the location over here, which is now I'm walking to. Unfortunately, my rod won't go the full depth, full distance I need it to go. Now, obviously, like I said about the monster fish for Lone Star is actually where that marker is. Unfortunately, I can't make my rod go any further up, but it's literally where that marker is. It's about 6, I'm pretty sure it's 8, it might be 80 feet out. Obviously, that is where you're going to have smallmouth buffalo fishing. Now, obviously, I'll show you the map, which is I'm pretty sure it's, I can't remember what the controller is for it, or the button it is for the consoles. I really should have made a memory of it all. But yeah, that's the marker for smallmouth buffalo. Obviously, you can get the catfish, which can give you a bit of a fight. And obviously, there you go, smallmouth buffalo, which can weigh quite a bit. Now, smallmouth buffalo with a standard rod, that obviously I've got, will usually break if I drag to a 4. If I'm at halfway on the drag, I should be fine. If I'm at a 2, I should be fine, but it's going to be a bit of a fight. So if you notice that your line here goes all the way up and starts flashing red, it's likely your line is going to snap. It means you can lose your float and your hook, and obviously you lose your bait, which means you have to reset your rod back up. That would also go for your feeders as well. You could use your cage, your bait, and the hook, and you'll lose the leader. But sometimes it'll just snap the leader and take the hook with it. You'd still hopefully keep your cage at the same time. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. You can lose a bit more. So yeah, every time your line breaks, it's because your line has gone up and the fish has been too strong for your rod or your line or your reel. So if it flashes, drag down, don't drag up. I know there's been a few people who drag up and go, oh, I can get the fish. No, drag down. Now, if you have the indicator in the orange, you should be fine. If you can judge just how much your indicator on the gauge is going, you can drag up. Now I've done it before where I've just been a fraction of a hairline under the drag so it doesn't flash. If you're able to do that, you're very lucky. I've been lucky a few times, but obviously I've done it on console, not the PC version yet, so I haven't been too lucky. So do be careful when you do your drag for your little rods, because there is a chance it's going too much and it's going to go. I can't click at the same time. It's just going to go. There we go. There's a click. It's just going to snap like that, guys. It'll just go. Fish is gone, and you're like, my line's broke, and you've got to reset it. So obviously, we're going to say that I've lost all of that. So I've lost my float, I've lost my hook, and I've lost my bait. Now, obviously I've got a few extra items on me, because obviously I've not been able to store it all, just in case. So you need to reset up your hook, your float, and obviously your bait. Now, obviously if I had the other line, I'd set it back up as well, but your line should be fine. It's just snapped, it'll be fine. So you've lost your float. Now you may have to go to the shop or the home page, which we're now going to do, because I don't need to do any more on this location. I know, I'm rambling a bit. Unfortunately, I'm trying to explain quite a bit at the same time. This is going to be a lot of editing. Obviously, there is a chat window down here. Obviously, this is the global chat on PC. They did have it on consoles, but they removed it. But I know on here you can actually have it where you can actually speak to your friends. Obviously, this isn't friends, it's the people on the world. But you can open up one and speak to your friends and send them messages, private chats, and you can speak to them that way. Obviously, this is for PC with global chat. We won't worry about that at the minute anyway. Right, so let me see if I can just throw that in there. So obviously, you've got your rod. Obviously, you want to put new line on because it's broken or anything like that. Now, obviously, you'd have to go to the shop, which is that one. Obviously, it's going to be the mono because that's what you got. You'd obviously buy it, and it would either go into one of two places. One, it will go into your backpack if you've got room, or two, it will go into your home storage. It will say, because it will come up saying it's gone wherever it is. Let me give you an example. Let me get some bait quickly because I'm going to need it. So when you buy something, it'll say backpack or it'll say home storage. That'll go for everything that you buy from the shop. So, obviously, as you can see, my float's already here. And same for the hooks, and obviously same for the bait, because I've got that bait down here. Anyway, now, unfortunately, I haven't got the right line on. As you'll see at the top, the line is too strong for your rod. There is a risk of it damaging it or breaking. So we're not going to use that line, because obviously that line cannot go for this rod. Now, the reason why that is because your rod can take a 2 to 4 pound line. Okay, now as you can see here, this line is an 8 pound test, so this line is too strong for this rod. Now, it would be fine for the reel, because obviously the reel, as you can see, max drag is 2.85, and you're like, well, hold on, isn't that too strong for the rod? Yeah, I mean for the reel, yes, it is too strong for the reel, but the reel can still take it. As you can see, it only give that much of the line to that rod. But unfortunately, if you're trying to fight fish, which is an 8 pound fish, that reel's not going to bring the fish in at all. Which obviously you'll notice from my playlists or from some of my episodes, I do explain that. Reel breaker and rod breaker will also explain it a little bit better. Anyway, so you want to reset your rod back up. So obviously you're going to come to your reel, your lines. And obviously I'm going to take this one. Now, how much it would take off is going to be a maximum of 218, which would leave you 212. Now, because obviously the rod's going to take 212. Now, as you can see, I've already got one here, so I'm going to put that on because I don't want to waste it. So from the reel I've just put on, there'll be 0 left, so it's the whole reel, because obviously it's taken that much. That's how much can go is on it. Obviously you can adjust it if you need to, so you can always put like 50. It'll give you a minimum that they can always put on, so it'll be 50. but we're going to put the max on. It'll do a cut even though it's already on there. Now, obviously, if you've got floats, which are usually at the home, it is here. Now, if I say I put on a heavy float, you don't notice any difference. So I'm going to put the hook on. Now, as you can see here, the tackle is too heavy and can break because the float is too heavy. The floats will actually be too heavy for the line. Surprisingly enough, the lines can be affected by weights of floats and baits. So we're going to throw that back in the storage. And we're going to put on our light float. Now, as you can see here, maximum floating weight is medium. It's made up of plastic. You see it just in the corner here. Unfortunately, I can't. Oh no, let me just throw it back in here. There we go. Sorry, this starts a bit. So as you see, maximum floating weight, medium. And obviously it's made out of plastic. So this float is optimal for this rod. So I hit the information again. So that's now, and obviously my floats, I think it's a bit different from the standard. You can obviously go for a lot lighter, as you can see, weight low. So it means sometimes you can put on a heavier bait when it's a lot lighter. Now, floats will affect how far you can throw out your bait. Obviously, your bait will also affect how far you can throw out altogether. This is going for all rods as well, guys, by the way. So I need to put my hook on. And obviously, we're going to put some bait on. Now, if I was to put on, say, God, do I have anything too heavy? Not in here. We're going to put a frog on. Again, if the tackle's too heavy, it will more likely break. So, again, as you can see there, it says extra heavy. It's a very heavy bait. Obviously, the float is a very light rod. So, we're going to put on some red worms. So, that is the basics way of setting up. Now, this item here is actually to do with leaders, which will be in your lines. Unfortunately, I'm not going to put one on because I don't need to. But I am going to show you guys how to set up the next rod. Now, me personally, I've actually changed my whole setup with my actual basic standard rod setup. So obviously I'm going to unequip this stuff because I need to change my reel. Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, you are kidding me, yeah. No, you're not. Alright, let's throw that in there. Let's throw that there. I can't. So I've got too much stuff in my storage, guys, as you can see down here. So obviously you guys won't be affected with this at the start, but I'll get myself back up on my items. So obviously when you add in a coat or a tackle box, you'll give you more room in your inventory. You'd have a lot less than what I've actually got here right now. But every item you add, so as you can see there with the waistcoat, it says tackles 3, lines 2. That is the lines, that is the tackles. Obviously my handy tackle box will add 10 tackle, 1 line. So tackle and line. Now obviously you get a standard amount of ground bait you can take, which is 10, and this isn't affected by any of the items I have on me at all, thankfully. Now obviously the hat will let me take 1 tackle with me, and it obviously has a flashlight. Flashlight slots no, flashlight yes, tackles, and this is the material it's made from. Obviously I've got glasses from the Christmas event. And you can get polarized glasses which goes on to have them go on your press G on PC, and I think it's your whole triangle on consoles. Can't remember 100%, but it usually does tell you when you first have them. Right, so you guys there are now like, well, I want to either add or change another rod. Now, unfortunately, I can't change my rod at the minute because unfortunately I've got too much in my stash. So, obviously, you'd go to the shop and, you know, you'd buy your tackle box so you can have more stuff on you. Obviously, rod case I'll go over in a minute. Again, waistcoats, so you can take more stuff. I do have to get a better waistcoat, to be honest with you. And obviously you've got your rod stands, which means how many rods can be placed on it. So obviously it's a 1 rod stand count. This rod stand can take 2 rods, as you can see there. It has no bite alarms. So these ones down here are bite alarms, and it tells you a weight. I'm not sure why it's going to tell you a weight of it for, but that's how much it weighs, 2.2 pounds. which makes no difference really. But yeah, have it. Obviously, it's the same go for the kayaks, motorboats, and bass boats. Now, bass boats and motorboats take up this slot down here. And kayaks will take this slot here, guys. So I thought I'd mention that quickly. Now, obviously, when you have any items, I think, yeah, vehicles go into this slot in your home, and your equipment items for your character goes into the box storage. So, as you can see, my rod triple case is that in here. Now, when you first start off, you don't have a rod case at all, from what I remember. No, you don't. Same for the waistcoat, rod stands, keep net, and tackle box. You don't really start with one. I think they give you one in your home storage, which they get you to equipped. Anyway, so we're now going to add a rod case so we can take more rods with us. Now, obviously, if I'd bought the hobby gear, I'd be able to take an extra one. So I can take 2 rods, 2 reels, and 2 lines. So these things will actually tell you how many you can take. And yeah, you can get pretty insane amounts. You know, lines, reels, rods. Now, the maximum rods is still 7 rods, yep. But obviously, these will say how many lines extra you can take and reels. So they are pretty handy, especially at high levels. To start with, don't worry how many rods you're taking. As long as you take 2 or 3. So as you can see, even though I'm level 31, I still have the triple case. So I'm only taking 3 rods with me. I do need to get a better one. Technically I need to get that, even though I need to get that one there, or that one there. So I might wait till I'm level 36 and I'll get that one. Or I'll wait till I'm level 44 and get that one. Unless I'm really bothered by it, I'll get that one. But anyway, so you're now back at home and you're like, right, I now need to set up a new rod. Hold on, let me just I need to unequip one of these. Well, you want to set up a new rod. So, you're going to select a rod. So, we're going to go with our feeder, which is in there. Now, obviously, you're going to need to put on your reel for it. Now, obviously, what I do is I look at what my line weight is. So, I know mine can take, out of line, 2 pound line to 6.5 pound line. So, I'm thinking about that. I'm going to go for... Seems I've got it. I'm going to go for my 7 pound reel. Now it's a bit more than the rod, which is a good thing because it means I can not worry about fully locking my drag on my reel. Now if I had one that's weaker, like the this one here, you can see here it says a max drag of 5. Now if I have a strong fish, I know I can put a full lock on this reel, whereas this reel here I don't have to. I know this reel can take a bit more and it has a bit more power to bring the fish in, but it won't be on a full lock. Now, has that given me enough room to put that stuff in? It has. Right. So I just need to move that around because obviously I have these rods in a set place. Now, obviously, with my beginner rod, which obviously everyone starts with, obviously you start with the mini spoon. Well, when I start using this rod, I upgrade it so I have the Callisto XSR, which is a 4.4 pound max drag, so that's why I have that one on. Now, I should be able to move that in there, thank goodness. Now, for the basic standard rod, I will use a 4 pound line, because that is the maximum I can use for it. And obviously I'm using braids, and I think, let me just double check. 378. No, 3. Why is that less? Oh well, I don't care. Put it on. There we go. So that means I'm using the most out of my rod with my line and from my reel. Now obviously I'm going to put a hook on quickly. And I'm going to throw a float on. And then I can throw my bait on. Just willy-nilly. Because I can. I've got enough to do it. Yeah, that's added on. So that is how I've got my basic standard float rod set up, and I've improved it. So I can get the most out of my rod with my line and my reel. Obviously I could have a bit more line on it, but it's going to be fine. Right, so your feeder. Now, obviously, on consoles, you guys get a free feeder rod setup when you begin the game. It's Fishing Planet 2.0 feeder pack. Obviously, PC, unfortunately, guys, you don't get a free feeder pack. They just never allowed it, I don't think. But this is a basic setup for yourselves. I think the reel's a bit less than that. I think it's... what is the reel? I think it is... I think it's the Windcast. What was it, that one? I think it might be the same as what I've just about put on. Nope, it's that one, if I remember rightly. So that's the reel you get. But I always go for the £7 one because it's a little bit better. So obviously you guys now just put on your rod and your reel. Sorry, I kind of went off topic, didn't I? So obviously we've added our extra rod, we've added our extra reel. So you guys are like, well, what's the line you're going to use? Well, if I go with the theory I've just said, I can only take a maximum line of 6.5. Well, the line we have here, what I've got at the minute, is £6. Now I've forgotten which one it is I can use, but obviously I've got 3 types here. So I'm going to throw on the biggest one, and that's going to tell me I can take 765 of line. So I'm looking for the one I've just used. That's the one I'm going to throw on. Cut. Now with feeders, you can have 2 things. You can have the open feeder, which means you can put ground bait in. Yep, guys, ground bait. Which obviously I need to put back into storage because I'm not going to be able to use it the rest of the year now. Or you can use a sinker, which means you don't use ground bait, which is what I kind of do use now these days, is just the sinker instead of ground bait. But even so, the open cage feeder, you don't have to put any bait in, it's just a bit of weight for the rod. Now, for some people you'd be like, well, hon, how do you know what weight you can use for your rod? Especially when it's a feeder, bottom feeder. Well, as you can see here, it says casting weight, 1/6 or 1 1/4 ounce. So that's the weight you have to watch for when it comes to your feeder. Now, I'm going to say this weight can also be affected by your bait. And I'm going to prove that as well. Now, obviously, so obviously you think, well, I need to put my hook on. Now, for feeders, you can add a bell. This is only the normal standard feeders. You can add a bell for the bottom feeders, but you can't add one for the carp rods. Unfortunately, I'd show you a carp rod, but unfortunately, I'm not at that level on this profile for the PC. For consoles, I am, but unfortunately for the PCs, I'm not. So obviously, you're going to add your bait. But you can see this here is still red, and most of you may wonder why. Well, for a feeder, you have to add a leader. Regardless, you always have to add a leader for your feeder. I know that sounds a bit weird the way I said it. Now, the main rule of thumb is you always go for a leader less than your line, which is basically it. But sometimes I will go for a leader, believe it or not, which is a bit stronger than the feeder. Now, obviously, because I took off the leader, it took off the hook and the weight and my bait. So if I now re-add the weights and my hook and re-add the bait, as you see, the terminal tackle weight is optimal. Now, if we're to say that I added, we'll go with the frog again. The terminal tackle was too heavy for the rod risk of damage, so it's likely that the rod will snap and break. We don't want that to happen unless you're trying to do the challenges. So yeah, just be careful when it comes to your feeders and your bottom rods. Obviously you've got your leader on, that it is optimal and you haven't got it where it's too heavy. Right, so hopefully that, guys, has made a bit of sense. Now, I'm going to go over one more area, which should hopefully help you guys out. Now, obviously, I've spoke about your telescopic rods, which are your float rods. I've gone about your match rods, which is the same as beginner, which are your float rods, because they're the floats, and that's the reels. Obviously you got your feeder rods, which I just set up, which obviously it doesn't have an indicator for feeders. Your bottom rods, again, are exactly the same as your feeders, your bottom rods are. And your carp rods are the same. Now the carp rods, the leader you have to actually use, where is it? Is a carp leader. You can't use normal leaders on a carp rod. You have to use carp leaders for your carp rod. And where are they? You also have to use carp hooks for a carp rod. Yeah, I know, it's a bit weird. And if I remember rightly, I think you can have to use PVA bags. Oh no, let me just do feeders, it's easier. Yeah. So you have to use flat feeders, PVA bags for a carp rod, if I remember rightly. And I know there are some carp weights as well. Yeah. Carp camouflage sinkers. So them ones can be used on a carp rod instead of using it, because you can't use a normal sinker, unfortunately. It has to be a carp sinker if you didn't want to use a bait or lure, but you guys don't have to worry about it until later on. I just thought I'd mention it now. Spot rods I've never really used. They're just basically you're throwing bait into a location, from what I've been told. Now, the one thing I haven't spoken about is spinning reels and casting reels. Now, as you can notice here, there's a slight difference. It's got a different reel, and it's highlighting spinners. And yet, for some reason, you guys were like, hold on, why is that different from that one? Well, that reel is a casting reel, that is a spinning reel. So obviously your spinning reels are here, guys, which most of your rods will use a spinning reel than anything else. Now, your casting rods can only use a casting reel. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got a casting rod or casting reel set up on me on this file. If I did, I would do one for you. But spinning and casting rods do exactly the same thing. They are slightly different in how they cast and obviously where the reel is. But if you want to know which one's which, your rods will say, you know, for spinning, that is for spinning reels, that one is for casting reels. So you'd only use a casting reel on a casting rod and a spinning reel on a spinning rod. Obviously, as you can see, match rods will use spinning, telescopic use spinning, feeder rods use a spinning reel, same for bottom rods, and your carp. Your carp rods should indicate it, but they are. That's actually bugged. Why is that not shown? Hold on. No, they're not shown. Carp rods use a spinning reel. They do not use a casting reel. So just in case you need to know, everything uses a spinning reel apart from a casting rod. Alright, so we're going to set up now. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. We're going to set up your first casting rod. Now, obviously, I do have an elemental, which is pretty light, but I'm going to give you more of an example with a heavier rod. So I'm going to use a low-key, which is a bit more heavy because I've used it for the Christmas event. And you're like, well, hold on, what reel will you need for that? Now, unfortunately, as you guys can see, I do not. Actually, I don't have the strong reel. Why do I not have the strong reel on me? How did I bring that fish in? There's no. Oh, there it is. So I thought I'd lost it. So again, you look at your line, and then you figure out what reel you can have. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't high enough to get a stronger reel. So if I was to use, obviously I have used this one. General rule of thumb for me, I'd use a reel which is a bit better than the rod I'm using. Now, by the way of how the game looks, I'd have to go for a 42.2 pound reel for the spinning reel I've just got. Well, I don't want something that's too overpowered, so obviously I've gone for a 22-pound max drag reel. So I can put it almost on a full lock when it comes to fishing. So that's why I got 22 pounds. When it comes to your rods, you can go for a reel which is a bit stronger but not too strong. I usually go for 1 pound stronger. 2 is probably my limit. But that's how I decide on what reel to use for my rod. Now obviously my line, I can have it up to a 23-pound line. Because obviously you have to look at this. So the maximum line that can go on this reel, on this rod, is 23 pounds. Anything more, it is likely to either break the rod or it'll just snap while I'm fishing. Yeah. Right, so I'm going to come down. Now obviously, as you can see, I've had to use it a bit, I already know that. So I'm going to test that on there. So I know that could be cut, but I've already used it. So that goes onto that rod, and it's cut. Now, as you'll see here, all of these are great. Yeah, cool. What can I use for the hooks? What you can use for spinning and casting reels is your jigs, which will have baits that go on them. So jig heads and jig baits. You can use hard baits, which is basically your, let's see if I do this, lures. It's basically all your lures, really. So hard baits, which are your crankbaits, top waters, jerk baits, swim baits. You got your spinners and spoons, which will go here. So all your spoons and your spinners, and obviously your tails will come in here for your spinners, and then obviously you have your bass jigs, as it says there, bass jigs. These are what can go onto your spinning and casting reels, so you can just throw them on, and they'll tell you if it's optimal. Now, obviously, if you put something on that's too heavy, it will say it's likely to break, or it's too heavy, and obviously if it's too light, terminal's too light, cast will be short. Now, using a lighter weight lure on your rods is fine, because it's just going to cast a short distance. Using something that's too heavy on your casting and spinning reels is likely to break your rod. So do be careful when setting them up. So again, I'll just give you a bit of an example again. As you can see, it's too light. Now, as you noticed, it has taken the feed off. Now, if I added a spinner, you'll notice that it shows a bait. Well, that is actually supposed to be for tails on your spinners. So my brain's trying to think at the same time. Now, if you were to use a jig head, I'll take this one for an example. It opens up the jig baits, which then goes where the bait is. And obviously, I'll still say if it's optimal or not. Obviously, I've not got anything that's heavy enough anyway. Now, obviously, with these, you can add a leader. Luckily, you can still add a leader with these, which is a good thing. So, always going for something that's a bit less or a bit higher is absolutely fine, just by a few pounds. And that is basically how you set up your setups for your rods. Now, this is irritating me a little bit, and I know a few will be like, well, hold on, we see that you've actually got, or you've done a few videos where you've got a lesser or higher weight reel on your rod. Now, is that it? Yeah. Now, as you can see here, it's too strong, it risks damaging. Now, I have done this a few times. As you can see, it's now getting less. There are a few ways to get the system to think, for your feeder, I'm using a lesser gear, as you can see. Now, because I'm using a stronger line for my rod, there is still a huge chance this setup will break. Now, I use it because for some reason it actually works. They may fix it at one point or another, but for me, it works at the minute. So I usually have this set up when I'm fishing. I could use the £8 braid, but I prefer using fluoro when I'm fishing on these games. It's a lot easier for me. But yeah, you can sometimes and I mean this, sometimes add a line which is a little bit stronger for your rod. Now, doing that, I still have, like I said, a higher chance of my line breaking. It can also affect my rod a bit more, so it gets tested a lot more. So when you do these setups, guys, do be careful. Even though it may say optimal, even though your line, as you know, is way too strong, it can still break and you can lose the gear. So do be careful. And obviously it can affect your rod and your reel a bit. But yes, when I fish, I usually have a setup which seems a bit like, well, hold on, that shouldn't be possible for you to use. Now, anyone who's watched my videos know this is what my setup is for my feeder. It works for me. It might not work for everyone, but this is the setup I use. My advice is go for the £6 because then you have less chance of it breaking on you. That's my advice, guys. So I'll set up that one later on. Now, you decide you wanted to go to a location, say, we'll go, say, Leslie. Now, you wanted to see how much it's going to cost you for being there for 30 days. Well, you can hit this button here, and you can drag it all the way up. Now, that's how much it's going to cost you in total to go to this location for 30 days. So you can estimate. Now, that's if you wanted to do the 30-day skip. Now, say I wanted to go to St. Croix. Now, I know I can't afford to go there because I ain't got the license. If I wanted to see how much it's going to cost me, and it says I ain't got enough money, 30 days, whew, almost 70,000. Jeez, that's a lot. I ain't going to go with that, so don't worry. But yeah, for St. Croix, 70,000. Jeez. Now, obviously, like I said, licenses. Now, as you can see, for a basic license, and this is if I went to St. Croix, I would have to release all of these fish. The only fish I'm allowed to take is the brown bullhead. I can't fish at night, and I can't use a fishing boat. Oh, I can't fish from the fishing boats. If I tried, I would get a 20,000 credits fines, which is that there. That's the credits. That's your bait coin. Now, if I have the advanced license, I don't have to release the fish. I can take all the fish. I can fish at night, and I can fish while I'm on a boat. Now, a few of you may have seen a few of my videos stating that if I went to, say, Emerald Lake, and as you can see, I have not got a license to use a boat, and I need an advanced license to be able to use a boat. Now, anyone who's watched my events, well, the first episode of the events, which was the Halloween kayaking, I went to Emerald Lake. Do I have enough to prove it? Yes, I do. I'm going to prove it right now. Now, obviously, it's going to flag you up saying you need to have the license to be able to fish. Again, you need a license to fish on the lakes. And I'm going to say it again. You need a license to fish the lakes. Again, guys, fish. I'm not going fishing. I'm going here to do one of the events, or I'm just coming here because I want to just do what I want to do. I don't care about that. Now, obviously, at the minute, there's still the Christmas event going, so I've decided I'm coming here. I've got some event going on, or I just want to come out here because obviously I'm going to come here and do the fishing tomorrow. You can always have your setup, or self-set up. So I'm going to hire the boat. Yeah, it's going to be a day. Now, obviously, that date is actually to do with the day on the game, not in real life. So, warning. Boat fishing is prohibited without an advanced license. It is strongly advised to get one. Buy license or confirm. Okay. Now, if I was to fish, I would get a fine. Again, guys, I am not fishing. I am just using the kayak to get from the docks to another location, which I can't obviously fish at. Well, which I can fish at, but I'm not going to. So you don't have to worry about paying for a license if you're not going to fish the lake. If you're going to fish the lake, you have to make sure you've paid for the license, because if you catch a fish and you've not bought a fishing license, you're gonna get a fine. Now, obviously, each location has a different fine. As you've seen, and as I've shown you, Lone Star only had it as 100 credits. St. Croix's 20,000 credits. So you can imagine how much it's going to get to at one point. Now, like I said, if you're not fishing, you do not have to buy a license, especially if you're just doing it to do the events. And I'm going to give, and like I'm giving the example, because obviously it's Christmas time at the minute. I've only come over here to come and get my Christmas event, which is ground bait. Great. I don't care about that. So that's the only reason why I've come over here. I know someone's going to put in the comments, well, why haven't you gone after your Stardust? I'm not going to worry about Stardust because I'm not going to worry about finishing the rest of the Christmas episodes because I'm just not going to finish it in time this year. But yeah, I've come to Emerald Lake. I've not fished. I don't have to pay for the license. Now, if you're doing the sport events, you have to obviously pay for your travel and you have to make sure you've paid for your fishing license for that location. Obviously, you pay for your fee as well for fishing in the event. But I've gone over that a bit during the sport events as it is. So I'm going to leave the location because I don't care about the location. I'll have to come back here for a grind at some other point. Right. So, I know quite a few people asked these few questions. So hopefully, guys, I've been able to answer most of them. I'm saying most of them. I'm just hoping I've answered the questions. And hopefully this has all helped you guys out. Now, as you can see, I've got quite a bit of bait. And obviously, I need to really get some more stuff on me. And on my character. Now, obviously, when it comes to these items down here, they are actually junk items. Now, the cat's hairball, the jawbone, the bat wings, and the nooses are for the Halloween events. These I actually need to keep till I've done the Halloween events. The lump of coal and the birch branches aren't actually used for anything, so I can actually just throw them and free up some space in my stash. Now, templates, as you can see, what have I done? Yeah. So now that will save. So if I wanted to save that rod setup, I'd hit empty slot, save current. Now save the slot you've got, well, the image you got. Now, say I wanted to put this setup because it's all back in my storage on here. Obviously, you'd hit equipped and equip it. You can either clear it so it gets rid of it, or you can share the information with your friends and you can just select who it is you want to share the setup that you have for it. You can add more, but I don't even use this because I set mine up all manually. But if you have any troubles setting up a rod, you can always save it and then use it as a template for what you're going to need to set your rods up with. But yeah, hopefully that's been able to help you guys out. As you can see, I've only got a few licenses. Obviously, this is all the special stuff. I still don't know why them two are separate for, but they are. Oh, bait coin. And what I got on the game, that's why they're separate for. I understand that now. Now, sometimes you might see, like you just saw my tokens, because obviously I got that during the premium, which I used bait coin for. And obviously there's two others, which I've got from doing missions. Sometimes you'll get that with baits or ground baits, not an example. Baits. So say I complete this mission and I had large minnows in my stash box in here, but then I had bought some, but they were separate. The reason why that is because missions are classed as bait coined items, which are different from the credits. And I'll use the shop as the example now. So as you can see, where are they? Oh, funny, baits played up now. Yeah. So mayflies, for some reason, mayflies and shiners, you can get at an earlier stage, level 5s, if you use bait coin. because they don't actually unlock till, as you see, level 16 and a level 19. Now, say I got, large minnows again. 26 is bait coin, or 31 is when they unlock. Unfortunately, I ain't got any in my stash to prove it, or give you an example. But say I bought some, or got some from doing a mission, but then I bought them, but they were in 2 separate spots. The reason is, the mission ones, and the ones you buy in the shop from Baitcoin, are both classed as Baitcoin. The ones you buy as credits are going to be separate from the Baitcoin and the mission ones, because, like I said, the mission and the Baitcoin ones have been paid with a different currency, so that is why they're going to be separate. So do be careful. You might go, well, hold on, how have I got this and this? Yet they're both the same item, because one's class is being paid from Baitcoin, or mission is the Baitcoin ones, or one's class is, and the other's class is being paid for with credits, cash, in other words. So do be a bit careful with that, guys. You will notice it now and again. The easiest option is the Baitcoin or the mission ones. You don't get too much of, and not a lot of people usually pay for the Baitcoin ones at all. So yeah, you will notice that sometimes you have 2 slots of the same thing. If I ever get that, I will show you guys that either during a video or during a stream. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. I say rambled on. Hopefully this has been able to answer quite a few people's questions and problems. I don't think I'm going to sort this out into sections. I might do. I might timestamp it, I might not, or I might at a late stage. But again, guys, like I said, hopefully this helps you out and understand how to do your rod setups, how to get extra rods set up on yourself. Oh, I'm going to sneeze soon. And hopefully it's helped you understand how to set a rod up. I know obviously my feeder setup's a bit weird, because I show you how to set up one as a basic, and then I set mine up completely different from the rules. Yeah, it's just the way I've been able to do it. Like I said, the first setup I did for my feeder, please use that. Don't try and use my second setup, which is the one I've got now, because I know this works for myself, but I do have a chance of it breaking and snapping on me. I've just got the drag set just right so it won't snap that easily, and hopefully it won't completely snap when I'm fishing. It has now and again, but it hasn't at the minute until they fix it. Then I'll be like, dang it. But then it's my own fault for setting it up wrong. Anyway, guys, hopefully, like I said, this has helped you out, set up your rods and your reels and your lines, and obviously setting up all the other basic stuff in the game and understanding it a bit better. I know their tutorial on the free-to-play Fishing Planet isn't explaining it a lot. I know on the Fisherman Fishing Planet it explains things a bit more, which is a bit horrible that they do it for one and not the other. But like I said, hopefully this has helped you out. If it has, or this has made you understand something a little bit better, please do hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Especially if you keep coming back and you're enjoying the content and the information I bring. And hopefully, like I said, this has helped you out a lot, guys. My nose. And hopefully you're able to understand the game a little bit better and how people do things on here. If you do have any questions, please do put them down in the comment section down below. Or if I'm streaming at a time, come into the live stream, just say you've been playing this game or whatever game it is I've played and you're a bit stuck. Ask me whatever the question is. I should be able to help you. If it doesn't help, and you say, and you let me know. If I'm on the console or PlayStation, I should be able to get on and do a video, or have you join me and I'll try to explain it a bit better, or I'll do a video or do a live stream on it and I'll be able to go over it a bit more, guys. Like I say, hopefully that's helped you out, and hopefully it makes the game a bit more simpler. I know there's a few people out there who'll be like, oh, that's not right, or this isn't the right way to do it. It might not be, guys, but for me it works. I'm just trying to help you guys understand how it works for me, and hopefully make things a bit simpler for people who don't understand how this all works. Again, I know a few of you have watched my live streams, especially with me and Vamps playing the game. We do have different opinions about how we play it, how we do our rod setups, but it may work for you guys, it may not. So hopefully, like I said, it has helped out, and hopefully this makes things a little bit easier and simpler for you. Anyway, I'm going to catch you on the lake, guys. Obviously, I'm going to try and get a few recordings done, so my next few episodes are going to be a bit late out this next month, or for the next month. I will be doing the videos, don't worry. They just might be a bit late coming out. So hopefully you can bear with that. Obviously, if this has been more than a month from this video being out, obviously you guys will know that my other fishing videos are out, and hopefully they're there for you to enjoy. Anyway, I'm going to get off. I'm going to get this uploaded, so then it should be able to help you guys out. So I'll see you on the lake bright and early. Any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm usually on playing this at some point, or at least I'm watching the comments that come up. Anyway, guys, you enjoy yourself, stay safe, happy gaming, and happy fishing. And don't forget to bring everything you need for the fishing adventure of a lifetime. Bye for now, guys, and happy fishing.